Welcome to the Year 6 event. We'd usually be doing this in person, and we would have had you in the hall all together where we could have gone through any of the issues you would have raised, concerns you may have, and try and ease those and tell you a little bit about the transition programme. And we've had to modify that approach for obvious reasons. This video is really just to talk you through some of those things I would have covered, some of the key things that have generally comes up from time to time, and tell you about some of the important things that we value at the school and we know makes a difference for when the Year 7 start with us. So some of the things we'll go through: the community, why that's so important for the school, the pastoral overviews of the key contacts, the extracurricular opportunities that we have at Chase High School and we have planned for next year as well, why communication is so important and how to support your child, really the what's next aspects that you have as well. So the community feel, you'll know that you can see down the side there of the PowerPoint, we have aspirations, character and excellence as our core values of the school. There is a video we've just done to help for pupils and parents that aren't able to make it in at the moment. We used it for our open evening, but it gives you a tour for the school and really talks about particularly the character education and why that's so important. So I would urge you to go on the school website and maybe look at that 3-minute video and share that with your child, so they get a feel and a flavour for what Chase High is about as well. So what does it look like? Well, when Year 7s join us in September, they'll be put into one of 8 form groups. And you can see there that we have Ruby, Emerald, Topaz and Sapphire as one of 4 different houses. So you'll see, for instance, in Ruby, there's 7R1 and 7R2. So that means that they're in Year 7, they're in Ruby House, and then they're designated 1 or 2. And that is allocated fairly randomly. We talk to the primary schools to help that with the social integration, but it's certainly not on any academic ability. We want them fairly even in sporting and academic abilities, so that we can make competitions really fun, interesting and hopefully inspirational for the pupils. So they will join us. These be placed in one of the 4 houses. They have tutor time every morning with their tutor group, and they'll stay with those pupils for the entire 5-year journey, or until they reach our post 16. That is a point of contact every morning for about 15 to 20 minutes, 8:25 to 8:45, where it's a staging post really. You can get information, they can settle themselves in the morning, go through any issues of the day, have a PSHE programs like citizenship, key aspects that need to be covered, what's up and coming, and then they go off from that base each morning to do their lessons. So any issues we can kind of correct and help out in that morning point with their form tutor. And the Year 7s will be predominantly have our English team will be part of their tutor team. So they'll mainly have English teachers for their form tutors next year. Each of the year groups in Year 7, 8, 9 is supported by a Key Stage Director, and Year 10 and 11 also have their own Key Stage Director, and that's a senior pastoral person that helps support the team. We also have a house coordinator to champion the house system, and they are also responsible for the Elite Sports Academy, which runs throughout the school. And you'll see our, particularly if you join our social media, you'll see our netball academy and our football academy at post 16, which are kind of the pinnacle of that. The Elite Sports Academy is something you'll find out much more in Year 7, and there is a selection process for Year 8 onwards, and there'll be more details to follow on that. We also have a very strong student voice. We have a junior leadership team, and the pupils, lots of pupils apply for that. I'm hoping that the Year 7s will be no different, and we have varying levels that they can get involved in, and they get badges, and there's community projects they get involved in, as well as being a spokesman and trying to help move things forward in their year group as well, for whatever may come up from the student body. So your points of contact, you have Mrs. Ringrose. She is the year administrator and really the front of house for your year group. That could be anything from saying, you know, they're running late this morning, or they've lost the PE kit, or they've left their PE kit at home. Can they bring it in? They have a medical appointment later on that day. Mrs. Ringrose really is the first point of contact, but also the pupils will really get to know her, and they go to usually Miss Ringrose and Miss Stokes if there's any issues, if they're upset about anything. That is really the first point of contact for everyone related to year 7. So that's your own front of house, and every year group has their own one too. Miss Stokes is the head of year, and so she's currently moving into the upper school, and she's coming to work with the year 6 to 7 transition at the moment, and is going out into the primary schools as we speak to find out lots and lots of information so she can support the pupils the best way they can when they start with us in September. So just to give a flavour about what you can expect, we have a full extracurricular programme. You can see just on this snapshot we have things like science clubs, dance clubs, homework club. It runs every night as well for pupils that want to come in and use the library. They have access to the computer, to a printer, and lots of pupils get used to that as a way to mean they don't have to do so much at weekends or in the evenings, and that's a really good habit to get into, and that's available here too. We have languages club, French is mentioned there, but we also have our first group of Russian and German in September, and those clubs will be running too. We have music, choir, drama, coding club, and we've extended that to Minecraft club running at lunch times as well. The other thing we have planned for next year is obviously a restart on trips. We are doing some at the moment in the last few weeks of the summer term, but we also like to do our residentials, and we have planned the Kingswood Activity Centre for our year 7s as a way really to build confidence, get to know the pupils a bit better, and they get to know each other a lot as well. And that really does help with their identity and their confidence levels and all of those things that can help develop their character education as they move through the school. And the pupils that go on that have a fantastic time. So I really would urge you to try and get involved in the Kingswood Centre trip when it comes up. So supporting your child, we've got the basics there about attendance, need to be in every day. And I know the primary schools would have talked to you a lot about that. And it's no different when they move to secondary. Obviously, if there are issues with attendance come up, that can normally be an indicator there's some other things to discuss. So we'll work with you closely, and hopefully they'll get we protect the year 7s a lot, and I'll talk to you about that in a second. So they really just stay together as a year group until they can bed into the school and their confidence grows. And we're very, very good at it, and there's a really strong programme for them. But if there are any attendance issues coming up, please liaise with Mrs. Ringrose and Mrs. Stokes as early as possible. The other thing you can do is obviously help with them with equipment and uniform, getting organised in the evenings. What lessons have they got? Is there any homework due? And I'll show you something that's going to really help you with that. But they certainly will need your input as much as they did in primary school. I know they grow and they get bigger in the summer, they'll have their phones and a bit more independence, but really the pillars of success is the home, school and pupil relationship. So bear that in mind. I know many of you will, but the pupils will want to break away for good reason, that they're developing their own identity, but actually they really need a lot of support, their organisation, their day-to-day basics, while they, certainly transition into the secondary school phases and probably the whole of year 7. But I would even say as they move into the older year groups, that becomes really, really key, along with things like bedtimes and those aspects that they will want to be up later and later and later, along with having their phones more, that I know many of you will be getting in year 6 in the summer, and if not in year 7, and keeping a close eye on that. Things like not having their phone in their room overnight is a simple one to make sure you don't fall into that trap as well. We've found from experience that is not a very positive thing for the pupils, and there's no need for it. And we'll certainly help buy them an alarm clock if that's what they need it for. But keeping a close eye on that. And our experience means whatever you do in year 7, it obviously will it'll be more and more. So if they have it for every evening, let's say until 8 o'clock, then by year 8 they'll be pushed back to 9 o'clock, and those things will slip. So just start off as you mean to continue when you start year 7, because what we do know is although they're not allowed their phones at school, we do have issues in social media outside of it, not just from the pupils at the school, but that wider contact as they get more used to things like Instagram in year 8 or 9, as they move towards those 13 and 14-year age group. It's harder to track and support. So try and keep a lid on that as much as you can in year 7, and have some good agreed protocols with the young people, with your child, so that they know the boundaries. And lastly, I just mentioned about communication with the school. I've mentioned that a few times, but it really, really is important for us to be able to support the children when they're here. We know what is happening, what's going on, are there any problems, where is it working really, really well, so we can positive and praise. And we'll try and do that through various mechanisms, such as Show My Home, which I'll talk to you in a moment about, as well as house points and all of those things. The other basics is uniform. So these are little things to get right from day one. We need the pupils in shirts where their top button's done up, their ties nice and smart, wear blazers, skirts pleated, black, of appropriate length, trousers, not legging style. The girls, obviously, there's much more variation on trousers for girls. They need to be more tailored fit and not skin tight. So we will be putting up pupils for that. So obviously start as you mean to continue. Sensible black shoes, so that's things like not having big heels on, all of those. But also it mentions shoes. So these are not boots. Anything above the ankle will be challenged, and it might end up that you'd be asked to buy new shoes. So obviously don't fall into that trap early on. And if they look like trainers, even if they're in the shoe section, then you are running the risk of being asked to buy more appropriate footwear. So if they look like trainers, they might be treated like trainers, even if they're black, even if they're polishable and they have a sensible heel. There are some that are really on the borderline, and certainly we may ask you to buy suitable shoes. And we talk about polishable, so the canvas material is not suitable. And I think, the traditional shoe is the safest bet, so go with that. We would allow kickers that come up to just at the ankle, and that's fine too, but above the ankle would be considered boots, so please bear that in mind. I mentioned about the mobile phone policy. It is not seen, not heard on the school grounds. If they do, we confiscate until the end of the school day, and we make a note of that, and they get a couple of strikes. On the 3rd strike, we then keep the phone and we ask the people to come down, and then there'll be detentions and sanctions set. But obviously we have a couple of strikes to get to that point and a couple of warnings. So I'm sure if we get to the 3rd time and they're doing it, I would expect the parents to be and carers to be supporting us with that policy. Jewellery and makeup. The jewellery is really clear. You're allowed a watch. We're allowed stud earrings in the lower lobe. We don't allow anything else. There's no rings, no necklaces on show. They again will be confiscated, and they will be collected at the end of the day on the same strikes policy that we just mentioned about the phone. The thing that parents would get unstuck slightly as we move through the year groups, maybe not so much in year 7, but maybe in year 8 to be aware of, is pupils will start to want to get the second stud put in, or the top of the earring, top of the earlobe, sorry. The policy says that they're only allowed to wear single stud in the lower lobe, so therefore we would be asking the pupils to take it out, and if they've just had it done, it can cause unnecessary conflict, but it's something that just wouldn't be allowed. So you're running the risk of obviously infections and all of those things, but the school policy is clear. So if they do choose to get them done, then they'd need to get it done during a holiday period, so that when they come back to school they can remove it and then follow the school policy on the uniform. And it's really, really important. I know pupils wouldn't necessarily see that as why it's important, but to be a really good school with really high standards in learning and teaching and behaviour, it does start with the basics of uniform. So we really do appreciate your support on that. Makeup is simple. It's discreet makeup, and again, if it stands out when they're walking in the corridor, I would suggest that's not discreet. So plain nail varnish for the girls as well, not coloured, not fake nails, not long ones, all of those things that we'd expect to be challenged on and have to correct that. With hair, they can colour the hair, but obviously it's got to be natural colours, so we wouldn't expect blue, for instance, or 2 tones in the place, but that's again an issue that if you are colouring your hair, you're running a risk there. So bear that in mind, that you would get challenged anything other than natural colours and all in the same tone as well. So I mentioned about communication. We've got the Satchel 1 app. This is the desktop logon. You will find it easier on the mobile app, which is really user friendly, and you'll get details of that in September, how to log on there. The pupils will as well, and the staff use it too. So we use that to communicate if there's homework, when it's due, what it is, and attachments, and it all comes up really clear of when it's happening, so you can support at home too. You'll have access to that as a parent or carer. The other thing we use that for is house points. So the pupils have on their phone or at home, when you do, can track their house points, attendance is on there, punctuality is on there. And also if they get a detention, we log that from our system and you get a notification on your phone, and the pupil does as well, as a reminder for the next day after school for whatever reason. So we only usually use that for an hour detention where we're giving warning. If it's 15 minutes after school, then we would keep the pupil behind after school for that. So anything longer than that, the practice is that we would be notifying you, and the app would be the best way to do it. The desktop version looks like that when you log in. This is one of the pupils currently in upper school whose mum works is a teacher here at the school. We have a couple of parent teachers here too, and so we always get their feedback about what parents would need to know, and this was one of them to show you some of those bits. And you can access lots of things from the desktop. The mobile app is slightly more user friendly, has 1 or 2 less functions on it, but certainly will cover most things that you would need. So we'll be expecting parents and the pupils to be logging on to that weekly from September. Details to follow. So what's next? Well, we've got social media platforms, the Twitter account, Chase High, the Instagram, Facebook. I would urge you all to log on to follow us on that. That does show you exactly what's going on. We communicate different things on that as well. So it's another easy way to keep involved with the school. We put on notifications on there, as well as sharing pupil work and highlighting some of the clubs and activities. And that's a good conversation starter at home. If there's an activity you think, oh, that would be really good for my son or daughter, then you can get involved that way. And certain things you might miss if you're only relying on what the pupils tell you at home. They'll tend to say, yeah, everything's okay, and that's about as much as you'll get for secondary school pupils. So it's good to try and engage them in that wider community feel. Duke of Edinburgh Award, all of those things that you might not know about, that's a good way to keep track of that. So download the Satchel 1 app, although you won't be able to log on until the September. The start date for Year 7s is the 2nd, and they'll be meeting in the hall 8:30. So it's basically at the front of the school. You can drop them off and they will have the school to themselves while we do an induction in the morning. Only the Year 11s come back at break time at that point. So the Year 7s pretty much have the school to themselves that first day as they just get their feel away around this place. On the Friday, we stagger the other year groups back, but we really do look after the Year 7s, and they have early break and early lunch, and they'll be finished a couple of minutes behind everybody as well. And we really do make sure that they feel safe and happy for the whole of their Year 7 until they are the older ones and we have the next year group coming in. But my experience is by October half term, they'll be happy, confident, know their way around, know their timetable, and know most of their teachers as well. In October, we will do a welcome parents evening for all of the Year 7 parents and your child. And that's an opportunity to come in. You'll meet the teachers, even though they won't have some academic feedback at that point, they may only have seen them a few times. It will be able to put names to faces to troubleshoot any of that initial teething problems if you have any. And also what the feedback from parents that have done this in the past is it's really nice to get to meet the families and the children that they talk about their new friends and you can get to see them probably for the first time in October. So we'll give you details about that, and we hope to be able to run that event in full, and we'll give you a letter in September. We've got nearly all of the applications packs back, but if that still needs to be done, please do so. If you need another link, email the school, we'll send that back out to you. And although we haven't been able to have the year 7s in for their day's transition, would have been this week, we are really investing in putting lots of effort into making our summer school experience the very, very best it can be. We always do it, but we have enhanced it further. We've got about 150 families signed up already from our current year 6s, and it would be great to get everybody there. Even if your child only wants to come in for one day, my suggestion is do it on the Monday, because from experience, particularly last year when we had a similar issue, they want to come back. So the earliest you can get in, even if it's for one day, they can get over the boundaries, meet people, see what a great place it's going to be for them, get a little bit familiar with the school, help the September transition. But 9 times out of 10, they'll want to come back for Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday, Friday that week. If you haven't got the link for that, then contact the school again, email, we'll give you everything you need. You don't have to pay for it, and it is just for our year 7. So we really do look after them. They're doing great events like they have falconry, they'll be making survival skills, tents and things like that. But they'll also have a little bit of maths, a little bit of English, sports, camps, drama, art, and all those wonderful things, and they have a great week. And it really does, as I say, set the tone for September, and they'll feel like they've been here a year by the time they start in September the 2nd. Okay, so that really is the conclusion of the bits that I would normally cover. Other than that, I'll just be showing you uniform and some of those other things and answering your queries and questions. What I would say is, if you do have any concerns or queries that have not been covered in this video, then just email the school. They'll pass it to me, and I can either email you or give you a ring myself and go from there. Okay, but the August transition is our backup plan to make sure that all the pupils know exactly what they need to know and feel comfortable. And I'll be available that week as well and be meeting the parents as you drop off. So hopefully this will be an even better version than the one day they would have had in this week. I look forward to, if I don't see you at summer school, look forward to seeing you on the 2nd of September. And as I say, if you have any queries or questions, please don't hesitate to let us know. Thank you. Have a great summer.